Hello and welcome. This is Willis from Willis's World, and I am still not having a functioning computer, but by the end of the day, I should have one that will run it. But my goal for today is just to go through a blog I found and took screenshots of. All credit goes to the Forbes group there, but the leak that happened that was showing all the exotic changes that are to come with Season of the Deep, I took screenshots of. So even if it is taken down, I've got that. And credit to Destiny for these exotics. But I'm just going to be going through, explaining some of the changes, and trying to compare it to things already in game so that you can see some of these changes are massive. Salvation's Grip is kind of a odd one, because it's getting a massive buff, but that massive buff is still not the greatest. What it did before, it created 3 crystals on a charge-up shot, and it literally did nothing else. It would shoot out crystals, and amount varying on how long you charge it up. But now, with the change, the charged shot will form 6 crystals instead of 3, and the uncharged shot shoots a normal grenade that instant shatters the crystals. So, think of the hunters. I think it was an aspect for the Stasis Hunter that made it so that they could throw their crystals in a circle. That's basically going to be what Salvation's Grip does now. And then you can go and detonate it. So it should be able to trap enemies in it, like in PvP, and then just one shot from uncharged, detonate it, and you've got 6 crystals going off, which is enough to one-shot a Guardian. And as far as PvE goes, shatter damage is actually a very efficient way to kill a large group of enemies, but it's going to take 2 shots from a heavy weapon, whereas you could take 1 shot from other things. So I'm kind of mixed on it, but it's a decent one. Now the Eyes of Tomorrow. That's another weapon that is decent, but is more for single target, like bosses, not so much for ad clear. This is going to make it a little better with ad clear. What it does is it will charge up its shot and then release and send down a volley of rockets on the target. Now, with the fact that you have to charge up your shot, for bosses, it's not all too bad. You've got things like the Hunter Dodge, suppressing enemies with the suppressing reloads weapons. You've got the Stasis Hunter with their melee. When they slow an enemy, they reload their weapons. There's plenty of ways to reload cancel and make it so that you're shooting more. But for ad clear, it was not really all there. So making it so that when it kills 4 targets in a volley, refunds in ammo, you don't even have to do the reload cancel when you're getting swarmed. You shoot that, get away, that goes down, everything dies, and it's instantly reloaded, and all you have to worry about is the charge up time. So that's a nice ease of life change. Doesn't really add any more damage to it, but makes it more compatible for ad clear. The Graviton Lance, it should actually be getting a very decent buff, like a 60% increased rate of fire. Because it used to be like a doom, doom, doom fire rate, but now it's getting changed to the same fire rate as the Revision Zero 2 burst, which is a doom, 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 doom. So it should be doing a lot more damage just because of that, and it's getting the difference in damage between the 2 bullets reduced, So it's basically a 60% fire rate buff with a little buff to its basic bullet, and to my knowledge they're keeping the big bullet around the same, if not a little less. So it should be like a 10-15% damage buff to it. Now, one that I'm personally and yeah, Graviton Lance, that's great and all, but that's more for PvP stuff. I still don't think that it's going to be, well, it will be consistent, I'll give it that. But I think there are better choices for PvE, like the aforementioned Revision Zero. I got some massive buffs with the mid-season patch. And then there is the Tommy's Matchbook. The catalyst is updated, so when overheated, sustained fire scorches targets, and that's going to be on every 5th shot while in your overheat mode. So you do have to shoot for a minute for it to activate, and then once it starts damaging you to its fullest extent, it will start scorching every 5 shots. But keep in mind, it's scorching. You're on a solar subclass, run something like the Loreley Splendor, and then run Scorching Targets Regen's class ability. This weapon will literally proc Loreley Splendor on its own. And also on Titan, you've got things like the Actium War Rig, and since it's scorching, defeating a scorched target creates sunspots, and you've got healing from that as well. And the constant ammo regen from Actium. Or Prometheum Spur on Warlock, one of the most underrated exotics that I honestly, strangely kind of use. If you're standing in your rift on a Warlock, getting solar final blows, you get your rift energy back, scorching targets, rift energy back, and it will make it so that you're literally double dipping in class ability regen, and then if you're standing in your rift, kill someone with that machine gun, you're popping another rift at them. But great thing about those ones that are getting popped, it's empowering and healing. So you're getting the damage buff of Tommy's being fully ran up, and the empowering rift, while having the healing from your healing rifts. So yeah, Tommy's Matchbook, I'm excited for. There's a lot of builds that it can plug into very well. All it needed was that Solar 3.0 verb. Makes it work really great. The World Line Zero, it's alright. I don't really understand why they did it, but I do agree with the blog post person's opinion on it. It probably will help with sword skating, but I don't really know why you would want to take your exotic slot up for a sword skate. Like, I can see maybe swapping to it for puzzles, but that won't be on you in combat. That much is just about guaranteed. And the fact that they reduced the damage, it already was by no means meta in damage, so I don't know why they did that. So the World Line Zero got a utility buff, but a damage nerf, so not really much there with that. The Vesper of Radius. Now this one is probably one of the ones that has me most excited. Because the Vesper right now, when you're surrounded by enemies, you get class ability energy back, and it's at a rapid pace. That part should still be staying, but the change is to the second part. The second part is when you pop your class ability, it sends out an arc shockwave to damage all enemies. That will be getting changed to this rework of rifts now emit a shockwave every 3 seconds. So, it's not a permanent thing, but every 3 seconds that the rift is active, which I believe is a 14-second duration. So you should get 4 detonations instead of the 1 from it right now. But that's not even all that's being done. These waves will be doing 200 PvE damage. If you were around when the point impact braces for Titan were introduced, the damage that lightning was doing is 200 PvE damage. So these 4 bursts that you are getting from your class ability is doing the damage of those lightning strikes from point cannon impact braces. It's been a while since I've been on. Sorry if I'm butchering that name. I know I'm close, so you get what I mean. But that's not even all it does. If any of these shockwaves kill an enemy, it basically has chain reaction on it. Or the void fragment that makes your ability final blows cause them to explode. Basically, think the vortex grenade with that fragment on, and then alternate it to a arc pulse grenade with that fragment on, and that's basically what it will be doing. But that's still not even all that it does. It's going to afflict blind on those detonations as well if you're on arc. And arc has it where you can get your class ability quicker for being near allies, on top of the Vesper class ability back for being near enemies. So, yeah, that's basically Vesper, and that is going to be a massive improvement to a already great exotic, because I love to use that with Stasis Warlock, and it's just going to get a massive buff to it on Stasis Warlock. And the reason why I say that is Stasis Warlock has a aspect that makes it so that when they pop their class ability, they will freeze all nearby enemies, and then that arc shockwave, the 1 right now from the Vesper, actually has enough damage to instantly shatter all frozen targets, so it's kind of like a nuclear button with your class ability. You'll pop it, freeze everything in place, arc shockwave shatters all of them, and the more things around you, the more damage the detonation does. And Vesper rework's going to make that so much stronger. But that's beyond the point. I can talk about that all day. But on to the next exotic that is getting changed. The Chromatic Fire. As of right now, pre-rework, it's just precision final blows make a detonation in the element of your subclass. And it's alright. And it has to be kinetic weapons. But that's not really too bad, because the Osteo is a kinetic weapon, and it's just a blast to use with the Chromatic Fire. But with the changes coming to Chromatic Fire, that detonation will still be there. But anything that survives that detonation is going to be afflicted by subclass 3.0 verbs attached to whatever subclass you're using. Now, don't quote me on this, because there is no actual given verbs that it's going to be using. The leak did not go over that, but the fact that it is applying 3.0 verbs for solar, I think it would be Scorch. I think it's going to be an incandescent on precision final blows with kinetic weapons, which, if you remember, Osteo is going to be getting used. That means you're going to be getting the Osteo dot on the target, and when you kill them, the Osteo dot goes to everything else, and Scorch dot goes to everything else. So that's going to be pretty fun, if that is what it is. For Void, I'm pretty sure it's going to either be volatile or suppression. For arc, I am thinking blind or jolt. Though jolt I have been thinking might be a little too strong, so I'm thinking it may just be blind. Stasis, I'm thinking will be a slow. And strand, I am thinking either unravel or sever. But then, with chromatic fire being that way, that's going to get a lot of tie-ins to aspects and fragments. And keep in mind, way before this leak happened, Destiny already revealed that there's going to be those 3 new strand aspects, so we have no clue what those are doing, and how those will interact with these 3.0 verbs. So, more fun things. And then Dawn Chorus, it's already got a lot of damage going for it, because it constantly ramps with each hit that you do. But now it's going to be scorching on contact and doing increased damage to scorched targets as well as what it had before. So you're going to have that constant damage ramp, and then after that first hit, you got scorch on it, upping damage even more. So just a solid buff there, lots more damage. The Ophidian aspect, sadly, is getting a nerf, but it is a much needed nerf because warlocks were meleeing from sidearm ranges in PvP. So, yeah, that's going to be a pretty big nerf, but it's going to be a needed nerf. All the weapon reload stuff and handling and all that stuff is staying, but the melee lunge range is just getting removed. So, it is a nerf, but not one that I mind, because I only really ever used it to get Fighting Lion with double grenade launcher loaders. I am one of those people. Sorry to any of you who have died to it. But the Astrocyte verse, that one has my attention as well. Because right now it's just you blink more frequently and further. That will still be staying, but you're going to be leaving behind a Void Blast with it. This is giving me massive... Oh, and the Void Blast also suppresses. So, what I'm thinking with that is the Bombardiers on a Hunter Void subclass. When you dodge, you leave behind that bomb, it detonates, it suppresses everything. But this might actually be much stronger. Because you see, Blink is a basic jump ability, and it can be used almost every 4 or 5 seconds. Whereas the dodge, unless you're severely built into it, is like a 15 to 16 second thing. So, that I'm actually kind of worried about in PvP, because suppression blocks abilities and all that, making it so that they can only use their guns. If you look at what the tethers are doing when they hit you in PvP, it makes you look almost immediately straight down. So if that stays, yeah, this might be one of the most menacing things in PvP, because you're not going to be able to use abilities. You're going to be getting forced to look down, unless that's just a thing with the tether. That second part worries me, but might not be the case. But the other thing with that is something I am a little more worried about. Because the suppress tag means it will work with the void fragment. That makes it so when you suppress a enemy, you reload your equipped weapons and gain a lot of stat boost to them. So, I'm kind of concerned with that. because that's going to make rocket launchers that much more menacing. Fighting Lion, more menacing. All of these breech-load grenade launchers, more menacing. Waveframe grenade launchers, more menacing. It's going to make a lot of weapons a lot harder to deal with. And that's beyond the fact that it itself already does damage. So my worry is the Waveframe meta may be back, the one that was there for a week in the momentum control where they do increase damage. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Warlocks are going to be able to blink into an area, get a little evasive, blink out of the area, suppress everything there, and Waveframe the group. And it's going to be scary. The Sanguine Alchemy, small damage bump to your matching weapons to subclass when you're in your rift. He says that it will never be as good as it looks, but this is more something for group enhancement. Because every time you get a kill while in your rift, you lengthen the duration of your rift. At some points, like, it's going to be crap for PvP. Because you're going to need to rely on those kills, and those don't come that frequently. Unless you're someone like iFrostbolt. But the fact that you're restricted to just your rift makes it a struggle. However, you use that in something like the Grasp of Avarice starting room, the Thrallway, the Altars of Sorrow on the moon. There is a lot of activities that have a lot of ads that you can just pop that. It'd be Healing Rift, and you and your entire team can just sit there in that Healing Rift as these things flood over, and you can just sit there and that Healing Rift will never expire. You use that on Arc with its little Arc Buddy attached. You've got an infinite Arc Buddy. Like, there are things to do with it, and getting a damage buff to matching weapons will be great with it. But honestly, it's kind of underrated, and there are better choices, but it's not a bad choice like everyone's been saying. Clouds of Ankara. It's still going to have that extra melee charge, but now it's getting an Orb of Power attached with it. It's more the extra melee charge you're going to want to go for, but that extra change makes it so that the mod, I believe it's something handed. It's been a while since I've been in the game. But it'll make it so that it can make Orbs of Power. I don't know how that will interact with the mod that does it. Maybe it makes 2. Who knows? But that's not really that great of a change. Mantle of Battle Harmony got a bit of a nerf. So those of you guys who liked the stacking damage buff, it is now just a single damage buff. So it's going to be more PvP oriented with that. It will be a buff in PvP, because it will now only need 1 kill. Then you got the damage buff to its full extent, rather than needing these 3 to get it to 3 stacks. But in PvE, it's going to be a little less, because, well, the 3 stacks held more damage buff, and in PvE it was a lot easier to maintain those 3 stacks. So, Ease of Life got added to it, but at the same time, it got a nerf to its max limit. So, I'm still worried about it in PvP, but PvE is going to be a little lesser than it was. The Dune Marchers, yeah, this needed a nerf for PvP. Now PvE, I honestly think it should have been left, but that range reduction, I really think that should have been PvP only and left in PvE, but aside from the point, it's a straight up nerf in all aspects. For PvE and PvP, its range was reduced from 20 meters to 12, so it's going to have a rocket launcher's radius rather than a parasite's radius. So, a little bit of a nerf there, and that's going to apply to both modes. And then in PvE, the damage went from 85 to 50, which is going to make it so that it shouldn't be doing the crazy one-shot entire teams with a single melee crap that it is right now. Then amplified no longer increases. Oh wait, that's the next one. But yeah, point contact cannon brace. This right here has my attention. Strikes added by this exotic now jolt targets as well, so you're going to have chain lightning instead of the lightning strikes everywhere, because as of right now it's just the damage buff to it and then regen to it. The lightning strikes were removed because they were too broken. But now there's going to be jolting these targets, which is subclass 3.0. It's going to interact with other things. But also getting the damage in PvE increased from 50 to 200. That is going to be a massive damage buff to it. And being amplified increases it an additional 50%. And it no longer increases the range. But yeah, this is going to be pretty damn hard hitting. But even with how hard hitting that is going to be, keep in mind that 200 number. This got a 4 times boost and is already one-shotting some yellow bars. So it's going to be doing a lot of damage. But that 200 number is also in the Vesper of Radius, and that detonates 4 times per class ability. So, yeah, there's another reason I'm excited for Vesper. That's going to be doing a lot. Then there's the second chance exotic gauntlets. It gives you anti-barrier shields as well as, I think it gave an additional charge. Yeah, but now that second shield charge will now weaken, and when you stun a barrier champion, which the shields themselves can do, it will go and regen your melee from scratch. So something like Monte Carlo with that could be a lot of fun. You'll be weakening targets constantly. It's a bouncing melee, so you're going to be weakening multiple targets. So yeah, that's going to be an exciting one. The Stronghold. Stronghold is already one of the most secretly broken exotics in the game. I will just put it that way. It may not add a lot of damage, but you can literally pull out something like the Lament, activate the block. Well, actually Lament's block is its rev up. So not the Lament, but any other sword that has a block to it that actually blocks damage. It massively increases the durability of that block. Like, you go from a Nova Bomb being able to take you to a sliver of health with just your normal sword. You throw on the Stronghold, you pop that block, it's doing maybe a sixth of your health, rather than giving you to sliver, from a Nova Bomb. So, those are already extremely durable shields, but now, after blocking said damage, or said Nova Bomb, you gain restoration on damaging the enemy with sword. This is going to be making some of the most tankiest brutes you can imagine. And if they add more exotic swords, all the more so. Then the Eternal Warrior. that is going to be kind of like the pre-nerf Mantle of Battle Harmony, except going to be for Arc Titans. Any Arc kill you get, and it just says Arc kills, not Arc weapons, Arc kills. So your abilities, your weapons, fragments, jolt, there's going to be numerous ways to get that proc. And then after Fist of Havoc ends, you gain the highest bonus to arc weapon damage possible. It is going to be a really powerful exotic. And as of right now, if I remember right, the Eternal Warriors is just when you pop your Fist of Havoc, you gain an overshield. So if that overshield's still there, that's going to be nice and all, but these damage buffs are going to make it so much better. Kepri's Horn. Not gonna lie, this is one of my favorite exotics to use on Void. Because you've got all these different ways to regen the class ability. You sit behind your barricade, you've got the constant regenning overshield, use things like the Traveler's Chosen, get your class ability back, pop it again, and it's just sending this forward. But the fact that it regens your barricade off of any solar final blow, yeah, it's stupid. But now you keep in mind, you've got that constant regen of your class ability, you've got the constant Void Overshield coming from it, and the Void Overshield effect stacks in regen for each barricade you're behind. I'm sure some of you guys didn't know that. And the Kepri's Horn is just sitting there, laughing its butt off, because you can use something like the... I forget its name. To anyone who does know it, it's the wave frame exotic that can alternate between elements and shoots in a cone instead of a line. Use that on its solar variant. 4 enemies. If you got 4 enemies and that kills the 4 enemies, your class ability is back. And that's before the rework. It already sent out the Wave of Fire. But now that Wave of Fire scorches as well. So if you were to throw that on a solar subclass, you've got your solar final blows regenning it, and you've got the defeating scorched targets regenning it. And it's doing all of it on its own. So Kepri's Horn is going to be nice. Path of the Burning Steps, another damage ramp exotic that's getting nerfed. It will no longer stack with surge mods, so it's not getting the exotic changed at all, but it is making it so that the surge mods damage boost, which is like a 11-12% damage buff, will no longer stack with it, so just little damage loss there. The Sealed Ahankara Grasps. Powered melee kills reload magazine of all weapons matching your subclass. When the buff is active, increase move speed and jump height. This is for the hunters. And right now, it's pretty meh. But with this change, like it's no longer restricted to just certain scenarios. It's just hey, you kill something with your powered melee, every weapon of matching subclass is reloaded. See, now, I don't think people realize how strong that is going to be. Because it just says powered melee. It doesn't restrict to any subclass. So, I'm kind of afraid. Because that is going to mean the Arc Hunter, with all of its melee enhancements to the point that it one-shots in PvP, or is just constantly going in PvE, constant jolts, all of that, will be reloading all arc weapons. Once again, the cone frame grenade launcher on its arc variant would be devastating with that. But that's not the only thing. Because, dude, it's going to be crazy. Because any arc rocket launcher that will work with any kinetic weapon that has osmosis is going to work with it. Your energy slot, things like Trinity Ghoul, which really doesn't need the reload stuff, the Risk Runner, the Fourth Horseman. That's one of the scariest ones in my mind. You're going to be able to blow your entire load of Fourth Horsemen on an enemy, and then seal down Kara, melee something, get the Fourth Horseman back up and running, and get 2 volleys instead of just the 1. So that's going to be massive. And you got the mobility boosts, which is just icing on the cake. The Raiju's harness is honestly meh, because you need your super for 1, which is going to be pretty restricted, and then it's just a blinding explosion that you could easily get just by running bombardiers. So I'm not the biggest fan of that, and it's a pretty small damage buff. Raiju's is still not going to be anything to scoff at, because it's still going to have the regenning super ability. Once you have your super, it's going to be great. But the fact that it's restricted to just when you have your super, I'm not the biggest fan. The Arthur's Embrace, already a very powerful exotic, is only going to get stronger by making it so every precision hit, not kill, precision hit, is going to be granting you energy back to your super enhanced knife. It's going to be quite nice for boss DPS. It's basically going to be the hunter variant of Starfire Protocol. And I do not say that jokingly. I am actually saying that realistically. The knives thrown by Arthur's Embrace on a precision hit are doing the damage that Starfire's is doing right now. But adding the regen of it to precision hits, you know how to land your hits, you're using something rapid fire, it's going to be basically Starfire. The Oathkeeper, the longer an arrow is drawn, the more damage it will do in PvE. I agree with the blog person of, I wonder how much it's going to go up to. But the thing that has my attention with that is 2 bows in particular. The Wish Ender and the Leviathan's Breath. Leviathan's is already doing enough damage, it's almost competing with top DPSs in the game. That getting a damage buff the longer it's held, depending on how long that can be held, this may be the return of another nuclear hit, very similar to the Parasite fully ramped and being reflected off of a Blight Ranger helmet in their Arc Super. This could be another 2 million damage hitter. It could be insane. And then Wish Ender as a kinetic weapon with infinite ammo and hitting with the damage and DPS of most special weapons in the fusions and shotguns category. The Wish Ender's going to be pretty good with that too. And lining that shot up in PvP, that may be ramped up to one-shots in there. So, wall hacks and one-shots kind of worries me. The Stompy's bonus only activates with full dodge energy, removes the AE penalty. That does suck. It used to be active all the time, but now you need your class ability charged for you to be keeping the benefit. So that's going to be kind of sad. Radiant Dance Machines is going to be a pretty nice one. Kills extend the duration of its effect. What people don't realize is that's going to be quite nice, because someone already found out what it does on Strand. That ricocheting melee with the Radiant Dance Machines. You use the dodge that grants you your melee energy back. You dodge, throw your melee, dodge, throw your melee, dodge, throw your melee, and you can just sit there on a boss constantly throwing the melee, having it ricochets adds, having the unravel effects go. Every time something dies, unravel spreads, and it gets pretty, well, it doesn't unravel, it severs. But that means damage reduction on top of everything, and there's also damage reduction in your dodge if you're using arc and you're amplified. But once again, it's arc. And that still also perks. The Radiant Dance Machines are an enhancer, and they enhance pretty damn well. Void doesn't exactly benefit from it, but every other one of their subclasses, it's crazy. With Stasis, you've got your little shurikens that bounce around enemies, slow them. You get enough slow stacks, you freeze. Yeah, that's a fun one to be trolled about in PvP. Go around a corner, they dodge. Their dodge slows you. They throw their melee, they slow you. They have Radiant Dance Machines on. They dodge again, slow you some more, you're frozen, and then they just repeat, and you're not able to do anything. Radiant Dance Machines is underrated, and it is extremely powerful. And getting kills extends its duration. It's just going to make it so the nightmare lasts longer. Now the Mask of Bakri increased damage bonus in PvE from 10 to 25%, and in PvP gets a 7% buff. Doesn't stack with Surge mods. It is a nice damage buff, but again, I've never really been the fan of it, just like the guy on the blog. The fact that it is a exotic tied to stasis, but does not boost stasis weapon and only boosts arc. I've always been confused by that. And then it's going back into it from different screenshots from the video I watched on it. But yeah, that's all the changes coming. Some of the biggest ones that have me concerned: Radiant Dance Machines, Oathkeeper, Sealed Ahamkar Grasped, the Arthur's Embrace. The Stronghold is just going to be hard to kill. Eternal Warriors complete rework is going to be nice. Kepri's Horn, always loved that thing, and now it's going to be working even better. The Point Cannon Brace is going to be doing a lot better than it has been, and jolting, so that's going to be add clear central for Titans, especially with Doom Archers getting nerfed. The Ophidian Aspect nerf makes me kind of sad. Astrocyte Verse, yeah, that concerns me a bit. Vesper of Radius is going to be nightmare fuel and to go against, but so fun to use. Chromatic Fire, going to be very nice. Tommy's Matchbook plugs into any solar subclass perfectly. Graviton Lance is going to be getting a lot of utility boost, and the Eyes of Tomorrow is getting a utility boost as well. Beyond that, I don't really find everything else too amazing, but they definitely have their spots and niches. But with that, Willis's World out.